Hey, you guys won't believe the absolute chaos unfolding today. We all watched Brian Hooker swear up and down that he'd never leave the Bahamas without finding his wife, but in a move that has sent shockwaves through the entire investigation, Brian has officially fled the islands on a private jet. He didn't wait for the search to end. He packed his bags and bolted back to the United States the second he was out of custody, leaving everyone asking what he's so desperate to run away from. But here is the real kicker that should chill you to the bone. The U.S. Coast Guard has just made a massive, grim pivot in their strategy. They aren't just looking at the waves anymore. They've officially deployed a specialized team of cadaver dogs to search the land and shorelines. When the dogs come out, the mission is no longer about a rescue, it's about recovering a body. If you think this case was just a tragic accident, these latest 24 hours prove that something much more sinister is being uncovered. Don't even think about skipping a second of this video because the details coming out of Michigan and the Bahamas right now are going to leave you speechless. Before we dive into the dark secrets behind that private flight, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss a single second of this breaking search for justice. So we have to talk about the absolute black hole in the timeline that Brian Hooker still hasn't explained, and it's finally being put under a forensic microscope. We've been told this happened on a Saturday night, but did you know that Brian didn't actually alert anyone or show up at the Marsh Harbor boatyard until 4 a.m. on Sunday morning? Think about that for a second. If the love of your life bounces off a boat into a dark ocean, do you wait 6, 7, or 8 hours to get help? Investigators are now obsessed with that massive time gap. What was happening on that sailboat in the dead of night while Lynette was supposedly lost at sea? That 4 a.m. arrival isn't just a detail, it's a giant red flag that suggests the accident might have happened hours before the alarm was ever raised. And while Brian is staying silent about those missing hours, Lynette's own technology might be about to scream the truth. The U.S. Coast Guard has officially seized Lynette's Apple Watch, and forensic tech experts are currently in a high-stakes race to pull the biometric data from it. This is the silent witness Brian didn't count on. We aren't just talking about GPS coordinates, we are talking about her heart rate. If that watch shows a massive spike in adrenaline or a sudden stop in movement at a time that doesn't match Brian's story, his entire defense is going to crumble in seconds. Imagine the terror if that data shows her heart was racing long before she ever hit the water, or worse, if it shows the watch remained on the boat while he claimed she was drifting away. But it gets even weirder. Just as the tech team is digging into the watch, stunning new video footage has surfaced that has the forensic community buzzing. There is now grainy, low-light footage being analyzed that shows strange light activity near the couple's yacht, Soulmate, on that very night. This isn't just a reflection of the moon. Experts are looking at these light patterns to see if they match someone searching the water with a flashlight or if they indicate a struggle on the deck that caused the boat to rock and catch the light differently. This footage is being stabilized as we speak, and it could be the smoking gun that proves someone else was active on that boat during the hours Brian claims he was helplessly drifting in the dark. Every single one of these pieces, the 4 a.m. silence, the biometric heart rate data, and the ghostly lights on the water, is painting a picture that is a million miles away from a tragic accident. The Vanishing Act wasn't just about Lynette disappearing, it was about a carefully managed timeline that is now being ripped apart by cold, hard forensic evidence. We are seeing the cracks in the foundation, and as the Coast Guard takes over the lead on this criminal probe, the pressure is reaching a breaking point. Just when you thought this case couldn't get any more suspicious, we have to look at the calculated wall of protection Brian is building around himself. The second Brian stepped off that private jet on American soil, he didn't head to a memorial service or go to comfort Lynette's grieving family. Instead, he went straight into the arms of a high-powered legal machine. We can now confirm that Brian has officially retained Crystal Marie Hauser, an elite, heavy-hitting attorney based in Kalamazoo County, Michigan. This isn't just a local lawyer. This is a strategic move to insulate himself from the mounting pressure of the international investigation. And the message from his new legal team is already out, and it is absolutely infuriating to those who want justice. His attorney is now publicly demanding that the world give Brian the benefit of the doubt. They are trying to spin a narrative that he is a grieving husband being unfairly targeted by the media and a public that doesn't have all the facts. But ask yourself this, if you have nothing to hide, do you hire a specialist known for high-stakes defense the moment you land? The American shelter Brian is seeking isn't just about coming home. It's about using the complexities of U.S. law to create a barrier between himself and the Bahamian authorities who still have so many unanswered questions. But here is where the shelter starts to leak. The U.S. government isn't just sitting back and watching this play out as a foreign matter. The U.S. Coast Guard's Criminal Investigative Service, CGIS, has officially taken the lead on this criminal probe. This is a massive shift in power. Because the Soulmate was a U.S.-flagged vessel, and this happened in international waters, the CGIS has the federal authority to treat this as a domestic crime. They aren't just looking for a missing person anymore. They are conducting a full-scale criminal investigation with the power of the FBI behind them. They have the authority to subpoena his phone records, analyze his bank accounts, and look into every single move he made leading up to that fateful night at Tahiti Beach. This takeover by the CGIS means that Brian's legal team in Michigan isn't just fighting the Bahamian police. They are now up against the full force of the United States federal government. The benefit of the doubt that his lawyers are begging for is being met with cold, hard federal scrutiny. Investigators are looking at why a man who claimed to be devastated would prioritize hiring a top-tier defense team over staying in the islands to assist the Cadaver dogs currently combing the shoreline. It's a game of legal chess now, and Brian has made his first big move by hiding behind a high-profile attorney. But as the CGIS digs deeper into the forensics of that night, even the best lawyers in Michigan might not be able to stop the truth from coming out. The walls are closing in, and while Brian thinks he's safe back in the States, the federal probe is just getting started. They are looking for the motive, the why behind the how, and that is taking them right back to the couple's history and the dark secrets that were brewing long before they ever set sail. While Brian sits behind his new legal team in Michigan, the dark truths about what really happened in the Bahamas are finally bubbling to the surface, and it is far uglier than anyone imagined. We have to look at the massive contradictions that are now being exposed by those closest to him. One of the most explosive developments involves Brian's longtime friend, Daniel Danforth. According to investigators, Brian told Danforth a version of the story that sounds nothing like what he told the police. In this private conversation, Brian reportedly described Lynette as swimming towards the sailboat after she hit the water. Wait, what? If she was swimming back, why didn't the boat move toward her? His official statement to the authorities was that she was instantly swept away by powerful monster currents. You can't have it both ways. These contradictory statements are a nightmare for his defense because they prove he is changing the facts depending on who is listening, and that usually only happens when someone is trying to cover up a much darker reality. But the evidence gets even more damning when you look at the hours leading up to the disappearance. New phone recordings and digital breadcrumbs have confirmed a Tahiti Beach timeline that shatters the image of a quiet, romantic evening. We now know the couple spent a significant amount of time at Tahiti Beach, a famous sandbar where a barge serves drinks to boaters all day long. This isn't just speculation. Phone recordings from that afternoon place them right there in the middle of the party. This brings us to the alcohol factor, which Lynette's daughter, Carly Aylesworth, has recently addressed in a heartbreaking and revealing interview. Carly didn't hold back. She confirmed that alcohol was a chronic, destructive force in their relationship. She described a pattern where their arguments wouldn't just be verbal, they would escalate dangerously whenever drinks were involved. Imagine the scene. A long day of drinking at the Tahiti Beach barge, a volatile history of explosive fights, and a husband who can't keep his story straight about whether his wife was swept away or swimming back. Investigators are now looking at the very real possibility that an alcohol-fueled argument broke out on that 46-foot sailboat long before the 4 a.m. alarm was ever raised. If they were at a breaking point, that quiet Saturday night in the Sea of Abaco wasn't a vacation, it was a pressure cooker. Carly's revelations paint Lynette not as a victim of a tragic accident, but as a woman who was trapped in a cycle of escalation with a man who had a history of losing control. These aren't just rumors anymore. They are verified pieces of a criminal puzzle. The timeline from the barge to the sailboat is being reconstructed minute by minute, and every new recording found on those seized devices is making Brian's accident story look more like a desperate fabrication. We are talking about a man who watched his wife in the water, by his own admission to a friend, and yet somehow she didn't make it back to the boat. The dark truths are coming out, and they are pointing toward a confrontation that ended in the worst way possible. As the CGIS looks at these contradictions, the benefit of the doubt Brian is asking for is disappearing faster than the wake behind his private jet. This is where the investigation takes its most somber and chilling turn. As we speak, the focus has shifted from the deep blue water to the rugged coastlines of the Bahamas. The U.S. Coast Guard has officially upped the ante by deploying a specialized team of cadaver dogs to comb through specific shoreline areas and land masses. This isn't a rescue anymore, it's a grim recovery mission. When these dogs are brought in, it means investigators have a reason to believe that Lynette's body might not be at the bottom of the ocean, but could have washed up or been placed on dry land. Every inch of those island shorelines is now being treated as a potential crime scene. While the dogs search the dirt, a massive legal storm is brewing between international borders. Brian Hooker is back in Michigan, tucked away in his American shelter, but the U.S. Coast Guard's Criminal Investigative Service, CGIS, is now the lead agency on this case. This is a huge deal because it means federal agents are currently looking at this through a criminal lens, and they don't have to wait for the Bahamian police to make a move. They are looking at the international legal tension, where Brian's high-profile attorney is fighting to keep him out of the reach of Bahamian investigators who still want him for questioning. The walls are closing in, and the next 24 to 48 hours are absolutely critical. We are waiting on that Apple Watch data and the final stabilization of the strange light footage, which could provide the final piece of the puzzle. The desperation is palpable. Carly Aylesworth, Lynette's daughter, is waiting for that one phone call that changes everything. She's been the one person who hasn't let this story die, pushing for the truth even when the official narrative was just a boating accident. The justice gap is narrowing, and the world is watching to see if Brian's flight back to the U.S. was a move for safety or a desperate act of a man who knows the evidence is about to catch up with him. We are at the tipping point of this entire investigation. Will the cadaver dogs find what the divers couldn't? Will the federal probe finally bring a formal charge? We're not going to stop until we have answers. Lynette Hooker didn't just vanish into thin air, and the convenient timing of Brian's escape is something that neither the public nor the federal government is going to ignore. Keep your eyes on the headlines, because this case is moving at lightning speed, and the truth is finally screaming to be heard from the shores of the Bahamas all the way to the courtrooms of Michigan.